Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the District Service Initiative webinar, which is presented by the District Service Committee from last term 2019-2020. Next, we'll be going into the introduction of hosts.
Hi everyone, my name is Hyunjin Kim, but everyone calls me Jin, and I'm from Moorpark College in Central Coast Division. Previously, I was a Vice President of Service for my club and on the District Service Committee.
Hello everyone, I'm Jeevan Bueller and I'm from UC Santa Cruz. I was the Club Vice President of Service as well as the Divisional Service Chair for Sunset, and I also was on the District Service Committee for the last term.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Hinojos. I currently go to Orange Coast College. I was previously the Divisional Service and Unity Director for Citrus Division and the District Service Committee Southern Executive Assistant.
All right, we're going to start this thing off with an icebreaker for y'all. So the question is, what is your favorite service event or project? What we're going to do is we're going to take all of y'all and break you up into a whole bunch of different breakout rooms with like a bunch of random people because that sounds like fun.
Hello, Jeevan.
Hello. Are you guys doing okay? Jeep and Kim?
Yes, right now everyone is in a breakout room.
Okay. I'm just chilling with you guys. I'm just making sure everything is running smoothly.
Okay. Yeah, so far so good. We just started.
Ooh, okay. Ew, it's Wayne. Hello, Wayne. I told you I would be here. Tee, Illy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So next slide. Take it away, Kim.
Okay, so what is the District Service Initiative? So in general, the District Service Initiative, or shortened as DSI, is a particular theme or goal that CNH Circle K changes every year. This allows us to focus and tackle certain relevant issues within our community. For this year, the district will focus on serving the environment.
Okay, now as for the importance of the district service initiative. So we are going off of three major points. The first one being rallying cause. The DSI gives us a cause that we as a district can rally behind, allowing us to focus our time and effort on a cause together. Next, community connection, an opportunity to connect with the community, organizations, and causes to build long-standing projects that impact your local community. And thirdly, large-scale events. The DSI provides a foundation for the District Service Committee to plan the annual district large-scale service projects.
So what is the importance of this particular DSI? So according to the World Health Organization, of the 7.7 billion humans living on this planet, 2.2 billion don't have access to clean water, while 1.5 billion breathe air that is unhealthy. Working together, we can reverse some of the detrimental changes in our environment. Though our individual actions may have small effects on the overall health of planet Earth, we can increase awareness of individual impact and community effort to mitigate the damages of our everyday habits.
Now, one thing that's really common with DSIs is not only do we build connections with different community organizations and create long-standing projects, but what we do is we also do tabletops and a bunch of other fun service projects to help with this DSI. So this year is a little bit different just because we're not back in school. So we have to adapt and we have to think of tabletop ideas that you might not need to be in person for. You can do it over Zoom. You could do stuff yourself and donate it in some other way or contribute in a manner that doesn't require you to all go together or be outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to break out into another random breakout rooms and we're going to brainstorm some ideas for what you can do. We have some ideas we've thought of already that are coming up, but for now, let's shuffle. Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. So let's just share some of your ideas because there's a lot of good ideas related to the DSI, and we just want to hear what you got. We have our next slide's gonna have some ideas that we've already thought of, and we have some ideas for y'all. But for now, does anyone want to share anything? You can raise your hand, or you could, yeah, that works too. Elizabeth, go for it.
Sorry. So in the breakout session, I mentioned making reusable bags out of old t-shirts, and I was watching a video the other day, and you can also make face masks out of the sleeves. So you're basically using all of the t-shirts. Mm-hmm.
And Justin?
I was thinking that you could use water bottles and turn them into bird feeders or bird houses.
And Yansu?
Oh, in the breakout room, someone also mentioned how we could use the plastic bottle for gardening so we don't waste the plastic bottle because it doesn't decompose very well.
And Johnny?
Oh, in my group, I think someone brought up the idea of doing an audiobook teaching kids on like different things about the environment and stuff like that. So yeah.
Alrighty, Gio?
So one thing that my home club does is that we actually use t-shirts and we turn them into dog toys, because with everything kind of going on right now, at the local SPCA, they don't really have much activity going on. So we would make simple like tug toys out of like the t-shirts, and then we would donate them to the local SPCA.
Yeah, these are all really good ideas. They're really popular, and we thought of some similar ideas and as well some different ideas that y'all may have not heard.
Okay, so for project and tabletop ideas, we have wetlands restorations, hiking trail cleanups, adopt a block, campus cleanups, national and state park beautification, and community gardening. As for tabletops, we have reusing old t-shirts to make bags, just like one of you previously stated, making face masks, also stated, recycling bottles to make bird feeders, gardening startup kits with recycled materials. These are all ideas that you all kind of mentioned and we also thought of as well.
So what events can be tagged as DSI? So here's just a couple examples. There's recycling fundraisers, composting events, beach cleanups, service fundraisers for DFIs, as long as they're related to environmental funds, then you can tag it as DSI, and planting trees.
And there's also a lot of great organizations that work with the environment. We tend to choose DSIs that are broad, and a club can help pick a focus and work through that. So we pick a DSI like environment, which is so broad because any club from any different school, even state, can pick something that works with them. So some organizations that are either some schools might have already been working with them, or just some good places to start include, if you're in like the LA Metro, Citrus, Paradisey area, there's a really big and great organization called Tree People. What they do is they plant a lot of trees, do a lot of greenery and maintenance on different like trees and shrubs and a lot of greenery. And they do this in order to, plants, they're great. They're great for the environment. And it's a really good place to start when you're working with them. They need a lot of people and they do a lot of good stuff. If you're not one of those three divisions, the Arbor Day Foundation, who just does so much work. I mean, they got really big press because of the whole 20 million trees thing from late last year. that's that organization, and they do a lot of great stuff with those trees. And if people volunteer, it costs even less to plant a tree. So $1 donated goes even further if you volunteer there. If trees and plants aren't really your thing, you can work with different marine establishments. So a lot of aquariums, if you're part of like a more bay, like if you're from CSUMB, Monterey Bay, they have a great aquarium there, and you can volunteer there and help them out with their conservationism and a lot of educational programs that promote marine life and conservation. There's also Habitat for Humanity, which recently started a new project where they go into different people's houses, evaluate their energy efficiency, and then they have volunteers go and update their houses to be a bit more efficient. This can include recaulking the windows, improving insulation, changing fixtures, sealing fixtures. And these things go a really long way, especially in the quantities that they can work with by, making everyone's house more efficient. It really adds up. For everyone in Nevada, there's Friends of Nevada Wilderness, which basically it's like the state parks equivalent to Nevada. You can work with their different parks and their wilderness areas to help renovate and just clean and beautify the areas. And if you're not in Nevada and you're in California, you can work with the California State Parks Foundation. They do a lot of great volunteer opportunities, and they even have some benefits for those volunteer opportunities as well. Like in Santa Cruz, the local foresty area just north of the city, that's a state park, and if you volunteer there, you can camp there for free. So it's a really good social opportunity where you can have members that camp out the night before, and in the morning y'all can make breakfast and then volunteer and then go back. And there's lots of great opportunities just like that for everywhere in the state and the district as a whole.
Okay, now as for service resources, we have two for you. We have the Service Resource Database, which is basically the all-knowing guide for everything service related. And the second one is the Service Mini Guide, which is basically a Service 101 resource. It's a mini manual that you can give to your successors, or if you are an incoming service officer, you can read through, and it'll have a lot of tips and tricks and guides for how to take on this next term.
So now we're going to take this time to answer any questions you guys might have about the DSI or service in general so that we can get some conversation going. So if you have a question, you can put it in the chat or message any one of us. Okay, so we have a question from McKenna. Given a worst case scenario with COVID, are there any things we can do that can go towards the DSI even with quarantine? So unfortunately, there aren't many organizations that have online opportunities for volunteering that correlate with the DSI, but we suggest that you take this time to research projects that you can enact during the rest of your term, hopefully when COVID becomes a little less, the quarantine is not as serious, and we can continue in-person projects. So unfortunately, you can't do anything online, but you can take this time to make sure that you have stuff ready for the rest of the term.
One project that's happening in Sunset is a lot of the different BPSs from all around Sunset. There's like 4 of them together that are working on this. They are planning a charity live stream style event where what they're doing is they're just going to have different people from Sunset, a bunch of different people that have some unique skill or talent act or just want to play games for fun, and they're going to use that opportunity and platform to raise money for different, either a DSI or COVID related or environment related charities. And what they're going to do is that counts as service. You're fundraising for an environmental cause or one of the DFIs. There's actually the rotating DFI for this year is an environmental related one. So that counts as service too. So you can be creative about it.
Okay, another question that we have, which was asked by Yan Su, is where can I find service events during these times that are specific for divisions such as citrus? Well, two great resources that can be utilized specifically for citrus division are 1OC. It's a website that basically caters to Orange County. However, as we stated previously, due to COVID, there won't be a lot of events that'll actually happen on site right now, but you can use that website to plan for the future. Another more general and broad website is volunteermatch.org, which is typically the most used one here in the citrus division, but either of those two work very well specifically for citrus.
And to bring that question more broadly beyond citrus, Volunteer Match exists, and that works all across, not just citrus, it works across all the divisions. There's also Volunteer Local, which exists in some areas. And there's a bunch of other local platforms that your city might have. There's a lot of different organizations that already do volunteer work. Check with your local museums, your local parks, your city sometimes. There's stuff like Adopt a Block, which I know Davis has a really good program for. And you can find something that's environmental, once everything clears up. And there's a lot of different local organizations that we encourage you to reach out to and to try to build a relationship with. Right, so another question is, could you go over how fundraising could be tagged as for the DSI? So the thing is, if you're fundraising for a charity, it counts as service. So if you're having a boba fundraiser and 100%, and the important part is 100% of those proceeds go to the charity. So if you do a fundraiser like a boba fundraiser, and you spend $500 on the boba and you sell it for $800 total. If you donate the extra $300 to charity, then it counts as service. The people that are there volunteering to sell the stuff, they would get that. And another thing about how you tag it is you just tag it as a fundraiser, and then you also can tag it as the DSI as well. Because it counts as service. And if the fundraiser is going towards an environmental cause, which is the DSI, it counts as a DSI. Otherwise, it's just a fundraiser and service. And then for Justin's question, what is the best way to educate people on the impact of service? It generally varies based off of what type of service you do. There's a lot of organizations that send LOAs or letters of appreciation. And generally the people that see that are, the VPS, the person who's working with the coordinator to plan the event. But one thing that a lot of clubs don't do is they don't share it with their members. By taking the letter of appreciation and sharing it with your members, you're able to better advertise how impactful the event was, because you see the direct appreciation from the people hosting the event. And sometimes they'll include big numbers or different statistics that help show how much of an impact it had. A lot of fundraising type events, for instance, in Santa Cruz, we have an annual soup line, which is the largest fundraiser for our homeless services center. And that event, they send us, hey, this is how many hours you volunteered. This is how much money we generated over the total number of volunteers. This is how much of an impact your volunteers have had. So you really see that, which is a really good way to share with your members. And one other thing that works really well to get members to share their own experience. So when you have your general meeting and you're like, all right, we have upcoming events, but we also have our past events. So having different members talk about the past events, people that went, talk about their experiences, is a good way to show how they felt and how they were impacted by the event.
Okay, so Yunsu asked, following up to Chio's question, how do we incorporate DFI with DSI since they coincide? So Jeevan kind of technically answered it before with service fundraiser. That's the main way to do, to incorporate both DFI and DSI. And as long as you donate 100% of the profit towards the DFI, then it counts as a DSI event.
And CNH has 3 different DFIs. They have the pediatric trauma program, the Kiwanis Family House, and then the 3rd DFI that rotates every year. So 2 terms ago, it was Feeding America. This last term, the DFI was the Trevor Project, and this year it is the Environmental Defense Fund. So this rotating DFI, that's the environmental one that counts for the DFI and the DSI. So it's 2 birds, 1 stone with that one.
Okay, so we got a DM question. So it was just in a general question, how do I reach out to organizations to set up events? So actually there's a whole section focused on this exact task in the service mini guide that the district service committee prepared this term. And I can send a link out in the chat for those who are interested in looking through it. But there's even a graphic to show like how it should look. So if you guys want to look through that.
Okay, and another question that was just asked in the chat is, what can I do to help with low turnouts on service events? So something that I have done in the past that has helped is basically just let your members know about the impact that they're making by attending this specific service project. It's very important to let your members know what exactly they're causing in the community in order to get them to want to volunteer more.
One other way to help with the low turnout is to to not fudge the numbers, but to improve the bottom line by having your board members go as well. What we did in UC Santa Cruz was often board members would not have to attend events. We would require them to attend a certain number of events over a period of time. So that way, in order to be on board, you had to attend a certain amount. And while that wasn't enough to make it event high turnout, it did help by making even like a low turnout event seem like a decent turnout event. And that way you're able to sort of boost your numbers to a more like average amount. And then with that average amount, you're able to get higher amounts because your events are more engaging and because they have more attendees.
And then also with that, I found personally it helps a lot if you remind members through a group chat or even individually messaging if you have the time and there's not too many people signed up about the event, saying that it's going to come up, I don't know, like this Saturday, and to like double check if they're actually available to make it so that you actually know the numbers for your event.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't even count the amount of times I've gone to an event because either, the past VPS or some other board member messaged me like, hey, you should go to this event. This is what's going on, and invited me personally, because that makes a difference compared to just a general meeting.
Okay, so Elizabeth asked, this is more general, but given all your guys' experience, what is some advice you would give to your past self in regards to your service position? So I think my main advice is, because I'm from a small club, I don't have as many resources. So pre-planning a lot of events and working with organizations to set up recurring events that happen like every week or every other week help when you can't plan individual events or have events ready, so that your members have something to do throughout the term. And it also helps to have a calendar, whether it's public for general members or if it's private for board members, so you can plan out and see if you're spacing out your events correctly or if you have enough events coming up within this month. And then also promoting all your events at general meetings helps a lot.
To add on to that, some advice I'd give to my past self in regards to the service positions. I've held both appointed service and e-board service. So I'd say create a timeline at the beginning of your term by meeting up with your predecessor and just discussing what events they had last term, so that you'll know what events to basically prepare for ahead of time. And just by having like a timeline, it kind of keeps you on track, and you don't have to go by it exactly. You can obviously add and edit the events. However, I did think it was like a great thing to do just to keep myself kind of in check and accountable for events.
And to add on to that, adding on to Jen's comments, I will also recommend that you reach out to your predecessors, because as much as our advice can help, there's some things that are unique to certain clubs, either relationship building with different community organizations you work with, which is very, very important for especially those recurring events, and a lot of other tips and strategies that work for your club in specific. So making sure you communicate with your predecessor. It's really good to have a transitional one-on-one and like a one-on-one that's like around a month to 2 months in, just to check up, because that way you can really communicate with your predecessor and help with that transition. And Zoom is a great platform for those one-on-ones while, we're not back in school.
But also, if you do not have an active predecessor or someone that you can go to, in the future, once the district service chair has been appointed, you can always go to them and the committee. Or if your division has a divisional service chair, you could also go to them or any other counterparts that you have in your division as well.
And there's no better way to learn than to listen to others, as well as to build your own experiences. And a really good way to build your own experiences is to sign up to be a divisional service chair, do the application. Same thing with district service committee. It can seem like a lot to just go to district service committee because, like, wow, that's, it's a district, but there's no better way to start than by applying. So it's a really good way to meet some great people, learn about some service, and to help plan some events like the LSSP that happens every year. And applications are coming out soon, so be on the lookout.
Yes, apply for district service committee.
Also, we have a question following up on what y'all have said. How can you hold the board accountable to attend service events? So for UC Santa Cruz, the way we do our like e-board elections is there's a minimum checklist you have to meet. Now check with your bylaws on exactly what y'all allow, but what we do is we have requirements for minimum service hours to even join board to begin with, and you have to keep on trend for your term. And the trends are a little loose in terms of like minimums, but we require every single e-board member chair a certain amount of events, attend a certain amount of service events, as well as Kiwanis meetings. And by having a minimum that you set as a board and sticking to that minimum, you're able to, do better to bolster those numbers, at least in just the minimum, and making sure every event has at least one board member attending, as well as to build those Kiwanis family relations, which are just super important. And how do you actually hold the board accountable for that? It can get a little tricky, especially when, some boards sometimes go through some little lulls or some burnouts. One way that works really well for us at Santa Cruz is we allow board members to take like a 1-week break, essentially, so they can take like a vacation from CKI, just to sort of distance themselves if they have a really busy week. And that helps people from burning out. And to keep them accountable is we really keep track of these targets. Our secretary has done a great job during my term of just communicating those targets and telling us, hey, you should be going to more events and you should be hitting these different targets. And having board buy-in for this is really good, because our VPA was like every single board member, minimum bronze, ideally silver, and it would be amazing if everyone hit gold, but having that support from board is really good.
Okay, so Brian asked, I have a very small club and struggle to get members to attend meetings, let alone events. What advice can you give me as a BPS of a small club that struggles with participation? So I would say to get general members interested in events especially is to kind of send out a general survey to see what type of events they're interested in so that you can plan events around that. You don't have to plan solely those events, but it'll help to bring up events that members are already interested in so that they get excited. And then when they volunteer more, they might get interested in volunteering at other events that you have set up. And that just increases participation overall.
Something that I have found that worked for my club, which is a small to medium-sized club, is interclubbing. So essentially, if you tell your members that you'll be interclubbing with another school that's nearby, it'll motivate them to want to actually attend, because that's more people that they can interact with, and it's building connections, and most members are very interested in that as well.
One thing I found is that most events need to hit some sort of a critical mass in order for them to be more impactful, like just like as a feeling, because you build that community within Circle K through that event. So if you just have a couple members attend, especially if they're new members, they might be a little disconnecting for them because it's just them there. So there's two things that we do is for every event, especially early in the fall, we make sure there's at least one board member present, just to sort of serve as a foundation to build that connection so people aren't just awkwardly alone, but to provide that sort of a social lubricant. And sometimes it can be hard, especially for a small club where you don't really have that membership, not just in general, but especially for a single event. So by advertising certain events as more so a focus event, so like a Kiwanis takeover style thing, or an event that there's just more promotion and hype around, you can create events that have greater attendance, and that in turn improves attendance at the other events as well. Interclubbing is really good as well.
Okay, looks like no one has any more questions, but if you guys do, here's our contact information. You could also find us on Facebook and message us if you have any questions at all. We want to thank you guys for coming, and please scan this little phone and sign in so you guys can get your hours for attending a webinar. And I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for coming, and I hope you guys learned a little bit more about the DSI this term.